The state's attorney's office has reviewed the video and has determined that the officer's action, striking the woman with a closed fist, dropping her to the ground, did not rise to the level of criminal conduct. The video shows an officer's outstretched hands as the approaching car enters the blocked-off intersection at Baltimore and Gay Streets and then proceeds to swing around, making a U-turn before the officer ultimately draws his weapon and orders the woman to get out. Within a matter of seconds, things would escalate.
Don't touch me!
You're not going to the car.
Don't touch me! I feel threatened! I feel attacked! I feel attacked! I feel attacked! I feel attacked! Don't touch me!
Hit me there.
Touch me!
You're being video recorded.
Touch me! If you don't violate my rights, I'm not going to violate
Try to hit me
yours.
with your car.
Because you were in the way.
It's blocked.
You're stupid. Don't talk to me.
At that point, as the officer grabbed her by the arm, the woman responded by striking the officer not once, but twice in the face. Almost immediately, the backup officer reacts with a closed fist, striking the woman in the face and sending her to the ground. While other people gathered at the scene, some began shooting cell phone video and making statements alleging police misconduct.
Keep walking up.
Y'all already know about what happened around Minneapolis.
The police warned body camera footage, coupled with other visual evidence obtained from a witness's cell phone, leaves little doubt about what actually occurred. While in effect clearing the officer of any criminal wrongdoing, the state's attorney's office did say that it does not condone his action, and it's asked the department to look at what he did in relation to its policy and training guidelines.
There's a question I have tonight. How much abuse should officers have to take before striking back, which is what happened here? Trebor, I'll start with you. This, again, is a very tense, delicate situation. But when is it okay for officers to fight back and strike back?
You know, Vinny, I don't even look at it as being okay to strike back or to fight back. Certainly, when you have someone that uses force against an officer, we have the right to meet that level of force at that level or a step above based on our training. So when you hear the gentleman talking about the cases under review, I believe what he meant is we train our officers and our agents with a variety of tactics. If you're doing hand-to-hand combat, if you're doing soft hand, hard hand, if you have available to you other tools such as a taser, I do not think that using a taser in this situation would have been overused, for example. I don't think it would have been excessive. I think it would have been allowed if they had batons, just depending on what the officers had at the time. You know, it's easy to sit back and Monday morning quarterback. I think a lot of times the public judgment comes because this is a woman. Okay, I have seen women take down men. Never let a woman surprise you. You know, I'll say that being a woman. So it's not, you don't look at it as being a male or a female. Had that been a male, for example, he punched the officer, but there are 2 or 3 officers there. Can they take him down, get him restrained, put him in handcuffs? An arrest is certainly warranted. So you have to look at all the factors before you rush to judgment.
Donald Schweitzer, you know, it's always difficult to watch these on video, but it's real life. It's what officers deal with day in and day out. When do officers strike back?
Well, the question is what is the level of force that they could use under any given circumstance? It has to be reasonable force, and you know, it can be something like this, using your fist. You know, as was already mentioned, you know, what's available to the officer. A baton, a taser, something like that. Actually, your hands are probably the least lethal things in most circumstances. In this particular case, if you notice that the officer grabbed the woman's right arm and tried to bring her back after she had made a punch with that right arm. And what she did then is she took her left hand and threw this mighty left hook that struck that arresting officer, and it looked like it shook him up a little bit. I mean, it was a hard punch. So, you know, officers are trained to respond very quickly. And the backup officer did what he had to do to protect the other officer and maybe even protect himself, because had he pulled that woman back, he probably would have been the recipient of that left hook. So, you know, under the circumstances, it looks reasonable. I'd like to know more about the injuries that she may have suffered if you're going to do a true assessment. But I think that under these circumstances, she was looking for trouble. She caused the scene. She struck an officer twice, and she got, the reaction that you would expect.
Trebor, the other part of this is, you're doing it in the street, in public, and now you've got to deal with the aftermath of what happened.
I agree. And now when we're training these young officers, we use videos where officers have actually hesitated and it's cost them their lives. So I will tell you there are drawbacks to this. The officer did hesitate. Now, whether it's because he was stunned or whether it was because he was concerned about the public, concerned about them videotaping him, we do not know because we are not that officer, but I will tell you it definitely plays a role. I would be interested to see, had that been a man that struck the officer, would he have engaged him hand to hand?